Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Creatives Podcast, where we explore creativity through conversation. This episode is part of a series that we are doing in collaboration with the Ottawa Design Club. If you don't already know, the Ottawa Design Club is a group of creatives with a dream of uniting the design community in Ottawa, and that is exactly what they're doing. They've brought us together, they've hosted many events, and they are the catalyst behind this series that we're doing in collaboration with them, and a live panel discussion that we did on the topic of working with your hands. So it's a topic that is dear to my heart. I'm sure it's a topic that's dear to your heart. We're sitting in a product that you've made with your hands. Can't wait to dive into these. I already freaking love how these look. These might actually be the new chairs for the podcast. Like moving forward, there's so many reasons why these are really good for the podcast, which we'll get into in a moment. I encourage you to check out the links below to learn all about the Ottawa Design Club. And before we begin, big shout out to Pano Media for powering the production behind the Creatives Podcast, and to Midnight Hour Studios for this lovely space that we are in. There's a special something for you in the description below, so check that out along with every piece of information that you need to know and can take away from this. It will all be down below. And you may be listening but not subscribed, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and share this podcast with someone you love so that we can keep creating it and keep evolving it and making it better. So on August 22nd, we had a live panel discussion and we discussed this topic. And here we are following that up with you and the other panelists, where we have a bit more time to dive into it. So in this episode, I'm joined by Andrew Doxtater, who is a furniture designer using really, I'm not going to say unconventional, but using conventional materials in an unconventional way. Can't wait to dive into it. So we hope that by the end of this episode, you gain one more piece to your puzzle that is the never-ending creative journey. So, Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
I'm glad you brought these chairs. If you're not watching this on video, you're missing out, because these chairs are freaking sick.
I don't know if you're going to post a video, but we both put them together. It was very... it was cute. It was romantic.
Yeah, it was nice. Just like playing with wood and just assembling it. And now we're sitting on it. It's amazing. So if you're not watching this on, actually, we have a video clip of us assembling the chairs. So if you're watching this on video, you're going to see an overlay of that right now, of how not gracefully, but easily, no tools.
No tools, no glue, hardware, nothing. It's just all slots together. All the same size ovals, just different slots, and that's it. Flat packs flat when it's disassembled, so it stows away very nice and doesn't take up a lot of surface area. It does when it's assembled, like it's a sizable chair, which is nice. But yeah, that's kind of the nutshell of this thing. I just want to talk. I'm just gonna lead with this. These are the oval rockers. Yeah.
You designed, you created these, you birthed these. You've done some really cool marketing for these. Can you just tell us what they are, why they exist?
It was, I want to say it was like sort of born out of COVID. I started restoring furniture at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was these vintage Knoll tulip chairs.
Okay.
And I just, through that process, was learning materials and researching the different designers and stuff. And through that, I fell in love with kind of mid-century furniture, all of that. It kind of grew an obsession, and through that started recreating furniture. Like there's Pierre Jeanneret. Maybe I can send you a photo, but it's a Pierre Jeanneret, like the office chair. You may have seen it. I remade that out of pallets. Just
based on photos of it, or did you have like the actual measurements?
A little bit of both. Like there's some information online, as far as the measurements go, but a lot of it was like taking measurements from photos and sort of just piecing it together that way. So cool. It's maybe not like perfect, but the overall shape and like construction of it looks like the end product. But like through that, I was like, this is really fun to recreate these iconic pieces of furniture, and I was just going to keep doing that. And then while I was researching some other furniture, I was like, I should try just sketching what an original design could look like. And through that kind of came this. So I don't know. It was born out of like this interest in just mid-century furniture, and then using the skills that I have currently and the means that I have, which is not a whole lot. like plywood is super accessible. It's super easy to work with, to think about how to use. So, yeah, all that together kind of just made the conditions for this to exist.
I freaking love it.
Thank you, man.
And one thing I noticed, which surprised me, is you give the plans to these chairs for free.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Again, I made the chair like a prototype, just out of a plywood sheet, bought it from Home Depot, made a video, thought nothing of it. I posted it online, and it happened to get good views, right? There was a good response from it. So I was like, okay, that's interesting that people like this thing. And then through that whole process, I saw like how easy it is to build, minimal materials, skill, tools required. Like the whole thing was accessible. And like the last piece of the puzzle was like, how can I make the actual chair accessible? And I thought, well, if the plans were free to make it yourself, like that kind of ties everything together. So that was the initial thought. Posted online. I thought maybe, some people will be interested, and it exploded from there.
Get crushed. I can see why. I've been sitting in this chair for 5 minutes, and I freaking love. I'm comfortable. Like,
good to hear.
The angle of everything is great. I have a pillow behind me, so it's giving me like a little bit of cushioning.
Yeah.
And I kind of want 2 of these for a podcast now, because they look good. They can fit anywhere. Because like one of the biggest challenges I would call it, we share this space. So when we wrap up here, we break everything down and we leave the space empty because other creatives do use the space, which you can be one of those people. So if you want to rent the space, you can. But the hard part is chairs, as you know, have 4 legs usually, and they're big. And we don't have giant vans or trucks to transport them. So these pack pretty small.
Yeah.
Like they flat. Yeah. Like each piece comes off and they stack up. It was like this high.
Yeah.
Roughly all of them, they fit in the trunk of your car, and the seats weren't even folded down.
I would picture it like a suitcase almost. Like that's kind of the surface area that it takes
for 2 chairs.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the suitcase.
Right.
But like, yeah, it's like, it just packs up kind of like in a little thing like this when they're all flat against each other. So it is good for like saving space. And it's also just like a fun conversation piece in your home. And
I love it.
Especially if you built it too. And it's like, it's just adds something special to the piece in your home. It's
because we've experimented with, using the couch. We've experimented with tabletop discussions and like various forms of tabletop discussion. We've experimented with like park benches, just sitting on a park bench talking. And like this seems to be a really great way because we're at a good angle. We're comfortable, but we're like propped up. I feel like I have good posture in this chair. So you may be seeing more of these chairs.
Oh yeah.
To be determined. Andrew, question I like to lead with before we kind of dive into who you are, what you do, and kind of what working with your hands means to you. I want to know what creativity means to you.
What does it mean to me? I mean, it means everything, right? Like it's, could you like expand on the question, sorry? Like
just like when you see the word creative or someone calls you creative, like what do you think of? What do you feel? It doesn't have to be a crazy elaborate, like what does being creative mean to you as a human? Like how does it, take form or take shape in your life or in your mind?
It's a crazy question.
I know, it's deep. It's very deep.
I think it's just using your influence, your experience in hopes to bring something to life maybe that didn't exist before. And using the resources available to you and not like placing these mental roadblocks of, I need to reach this certain point or have these certain tools or materials in order to achieve something. It's just making something with what you have to the best of your ability and ultimately like just bring something into the world that didn't exist before, or it could be an idea or a thing or whatever. But it's, creating something that maybe didn't exist before. You don't know how to impact people. So,
and I mean, it seems like you've done that with these and some other pieces. One thing I found really cool is your rock lamp.
Oh, thank you.
And like the fact that actually, you tell me about it. I'm not honest. I did my own research on it, but I'm curious. Tell me about the rock lamp and the people who don't know about it.
Yeah. Okay. So the rock lamp is it's a lamp, and it has a base that's in the form of a rock, and the shade is also in the form of another rock.
But they're real rocks, right?
No. So it's it's formed after real rocks. So what I did was, for the base, I took a real rock.
Oh, you mold it out of a rock.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
I took a copper sheet and placed it on top of the rock.
Yeah.
Hammered it into form so it takes the shape of the rock.
Okay.
And then, like, if you picture putting like a piece of paper over a rock, it has all these folds and stuff. So you almost have to cut it out to make it all fit nice. Soldered it together. So it's a copper sheet that takes the form of a rock. And then a separate rock, do the same thing, cut it in sort of like a shade, like a lamp shade, and then place it on top. And the idea is almost like you're balancing two rocks on each other, but there's enough space underneath the top rock that it creates almost like a diffuser for the light. It shines off the bottom, and it creates a lamp when it's all put together. And you can place them in any position. Like the bottom rock can be rotated 360 degrees, same with the top. So there's unlimited formations of this thing, and it's all about balancing a rock on one on another. I use copper initially just because I like copper, but it could be made out of any metal. But the idea is to take the form of two rocks and balancing them on each other to create a lamp.
I found it cool how the rocks are from the Ottawa River too.
Yeah, that was important to me. It's just I entered it into an exhibition in New York, and it got accepted. So to have something from Ottawa sort of travel to New York and be on display was really nice and special. And of course, like growing up here, the city's special, right?
Yeah.
So to have something that's from Ottawa to be like a piece of art is kind of cool to me.
That's incredible. I want to know more about your origins, like where did you start? Tell us like the, Marvel comic book style. It's black and white. Thunder comes in. Andrew Doxtater was born in a rugged chair. No. But tell me about your origins and how you got to where you are today.
Well, I think I've always gravitated towards doing creative endeavors. Like even as a kid, I remember working with cardboard boxes with my grandpa. I would like fake being sick to stay home from school just to like screw around. Like he had this little workshop, and I loved like making stuff with him. And he was always like super crafty, and he taught me like how to use the glue gun and all that stuff. So from a young age, I was always like creating stuff. I made my own toys. Like I would make a little car.
You made your own toys?
Yeah, I'd make like a little car parking lot thing for like your Hot Wheels. I was really into wrestling, so I made like a wrestling ring. It was all like super bad, but when you're a kid and you make something that you use, it's super cool. Like you're really proud of it, right? And that idea kind of carried throughout my life until like now. But from a young age, I was always creating something. In school, even I remember there was a class I was taking. I think it was statics. It was some sort of like physics, math heavy class, and was not doing well in it. And at the end, I think a lot of people weren't doing well. And the prof was like, you can either take the exam, it can be the majority of your mark, or you can do this project. And it's like create a diagram to explain what we're learning in class. I was like, okay, here's how I can kind of save myself. So I opted for this diagram, and it was how to show like stress and compression in beams. And through that, like learning different materials, like taking springs and copper fittings and making this diagram to like accurately explain what we were doing in class, I surprised myself. I was like, wow, I'm actually like kind of good at having an idea and bringing it into reality. So that was kind of like...
Was this high school or...
This was college.
College, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like a big confidence builder for me. Like, I can actually like, I can make things. As far as like professional or formal education in industrial design, I haven't taken industrial design. I almost like looking back, wish I did, but I was in more of the civil field. That's what I do now for my job. I'm a signal designer, so it's like where the poles go in a traffic intersection. So I'm in the design world, And I've always kind of been leaning towards creative endeavors versus, anything else. I always felt drawn to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of led me here slowly. I'd slowly connected the dots now, like, oh, I should have been doing this the whole time. Like I should have been thinking like, working with my hands, creating, designing. And now it kind of has evolved to where I'm at.
I imagine you've probably made a lot of things before you got to this, right? Or was this an early design?
As far as furniture, this is like one of the first.
But you made a lot of things, no?
Yeah.
Like toys,
stuff.
Yeah. Like you made.
I was in a band.
Cool.
And we had like this big elaborate sort of Las Vegas style sign.
Sick.
And that was another thing where I was like, a massive idea on paper. How do you bring it to life? And being able to like see the sketch and then see the final product, it was very similar and it did everything that we needed it to do. And it was this massive thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, wow, okay, like I can do stuff. I'm kind of nice, So, yeah, always like kind of making things, always like kind of doing handiwork too. So that's where I would learn a lot of, like building processes, learning tools and stuff, like working with my dad a lot of the times. So yeah, a lot of little steps that brought me eventually to this point. So it's a whole like world before this, but as far as like furniture goes, this was one of the first.
How long has it been out?
I think officially I released the plans. I think it was February of 2023. So
So it's not even that long ago.
I don't think so. No.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of new.
You've come a long way in just a year and a bit.
Yeah,
That's
thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
I love to see it. It's cool because without even realizing it, everything you did up to that point was contributing in some way to you being able to do this and, more in the future. I often think about that. Like you'll be doing things and you may not realize why you're doing them or what purpose they serve. And then one day an opportunity comes up or a new idea comes up and you realize that the things you thought were pointless were actually training you to be able to then be ready for the future things.
And that's kind of why when you feel like maybe you've tried something and it quote unquote failed, it's not really fair to look at it like that because you're always learning something. You don't know how, like just by doing something and maybe you didn't have the outcome that you wanted in that process, you don't know how much you've learned and how much that's going to affect maybe future things that become successes later down the road. But yeah, like everything you do affects what comes down the line for you, for sure.
Absolutely. A quote that sticks in my head is you are what you do repeatedly.
Sure.
And if you make stuff repeatedly, even not knowing, even if it sucks, like you're eventually going to become
definitely thoughts too.
A designer, thoughts as well, habits, consumption habits. That's a whole other realm of exploration, which we'll save for today. But I'm curious about your design philosophy and also your manufacturing process. But I want to start with the actual design philosophy. So tell us about your design philosophy and why you embody that kind of like minimal style.
Yeah, that's just what I've connected with. And like one of my favorite designers is Donald Judd. And he's this sort of, he famously rejects the minimalist title, but he's iconic minimalist designer in a way. I just find I connect with it. I don't know if it's something that it's just a subconscious thing. Maybe when I see stuff like this, that's simple and just direct, I find I connect with that. So that's just something that comes out in my work, I think. And I take the subtractive approach of like asking what can I remove versus what can I add. If I feel like something's not quite there yet, maybe something needs to be removed first before something needs to be added or changed. That's a big part of my design philosophy. I don't think I've fully developed, an entire design language or whatever. I think it takes a long time to really have something like your signature. It's not something I want to rush either. It's something I want to grow into and explore. Maybe try something maximalist and more intricate, whatever. But for now, I find I'm really connecting with stuff like this and more simple, direct, clear designs.
That's super cool. I never even heard that inverse, maximalist.
Yeah.
That's a cool word.
Yeah. It's
minimalist is always the word that gets thrown around.
Yeah, maximalist is like the opposite. It's just as many things as possible.
It would take us, we'd still be building these chairs right now if it was a
Yeah,
maximalist
probably.
design. That's super cool, man. And when it comes to like the actual manufacturing process, I imagine are you involved fully 100% and it's all you right now? You're not outsourcing or...
These are outsourced. So they're fully constructible on your own. Like I could go and make all these on my own, but it wouldn't be as perfect as getting like a CNC machine to cut them. And that's what these are. These are CNC cut. It's just a big machine that goes and like drills out the shape of this.
Mm-hmm. You give them the plant, like the dimensions, and it just cuts it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. It's a 3D file.
Okay, cool.
I get these cut at the Wood Source here in Ottawa. Shout out.
Are they like a sponsor, supporter?
They sponsored the panel.
Oh, right.
They got the chairs made for that, and so that was really cool. But yeah, they do a great job. And
I Wood Source.
We
need 2 of these chairs for the podcast. So if you're listening and you would like to sponsor the podcast,
Derek.
Hi, I'm Ramsey. Anyway, okay. So the manufacturing of these, did you get them CNC cut, and then do you finish them, or do you have?
So these aren't like fully in production yet. Like they're still.
Oh, seriously?
I did like a limited run.
Oh, I thought these were like readily available. Like you just buy them on your site.
They kind of are. Like I did an edition run. So there's 10 of these ones that I made. Like this is part of the 10.
Okay.
But eventually I'd like to get to a place where they are like fully sort of manufactured. Like you can just order it and have one. And ideally, it's going through some sort of company. Like I don't know if that's something that I could do myself. Like I would need to almost partner with somebody, because it's hard to do everything as one person while still wanting to branch out and work on other designs. But this is so much a part of my life. Like I want to make sure it goes to the right people, gets done the right way, it looks how it's supposed to look, and just make sure everything gets done properly. But soon.
You're on the way. I mean, I think all people need to do is sit in this chair and the rest will be taken care of.
I think it would help. It would help if there was somewhere where people could actually use it and see like, wow, this is...
I think there will be an opportunity. So at the event on August 22nd,
there you go.
Part of the event was interactive art installations, and one of these chairs got covered in cut up ODC magazines. I think at the next event, people will have a chance to see. I don't know if we can sit on that one because it's...
I don't know. You might be able to.
I feel like if the stuff's glued on well enough that it's not going to get damaged, then sure.
We're going to finish it. So
true.
So we're going to put like a layer of clear coat on top of it. So you should be able to.
Okay, sweet. So yeah.
Maybe it's interactive art.
You'll have the opportunity to sit in this chair for sure at
go.
some point.
That might be news to Izzy, but we'll make it happen.
Is that fall? Yeah, just give it a good snug. So beyond the actual manufacturing of the stuff, and the chairs, I like your approach on your marketing of these chairs.
Thank you.
I saw a cool video of you like just doing like jump kicks on top of this chair.
Yeah.
And tell me about your kind of approach to communicating what you've built.
Yeah. I love that whole process, like the marketing end of it and creating sort of a visual language to go along with this. The intent with like that sort of marketing campaign was sort of to align it with street culture and maybe a more, accessible kind of perspective.
Yeah.
The jumping was kind of almost a last minute decision. I was working with a buddy of mine, Elliot, in Toronto, and we did the studio shots of it, and the plan was to go take some outdoor shots, and he was like, well, why don't we just start jumping over it, see what it looks like. And I love that. It sort of conveys the motion in the rocker.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of connection, and it being outside and kind of more of a raw kind of environment, I think was really cool. But it sort of just happened organically to get those shots together, and we ended up loving them, and that's how that kind of came about. But I guess not everything was mastermind from the beginning. It was just sort of like as we go, like, oh, this would be cool to take take this idea, kind of take it in this direction or whatever. And what I have now is kind of what happened through that process.
It's cool. It seems like it's an exploration.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
All of this is an exploration and an expression of like you as a person.
Yeah, finding the identity for this, finding my identity as a designer, maybe even a person as I'm, growing and learning, exploring, for sure.
It's something like, because I feel like a lot of times we get sold the idea that everything is like finished and perfect and everyone is finished and perfect. And I like recently just kind of threw that out the window and said, fuck it. Like, this is an exploration. This is a journey. There's definitely things that I've mastered and can do and ground myself in, but then there's other things that I have zero clue what I'm doing, and it's just like an ongoing exploration. But it's almost like it's permission to make mistakes and to just like try stuff and maybe not do stuff, or even try something and then ditch it after one time. Like if you're like, I don't like this.
Well, it's freeing to kind of let go of that sort of idea of perfectionism and having all that everything planned. So to just kind of go with the flow, and maybe this feels right now. And explore that. And you never know what could come out of that. And like I said, like if something doesn't work out, you don't know like what you've learned through that process that could turn into something great down the road that you explore later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before you have a full-time job. So I actually this is a little bit of math because I want to explore this topic a little bit with you. So a 9-to-5 job gives you 123 days off per year.
Okay.
With full-time pay.
Right.
So there's no other profession in this world that gives you that many days off with full-time pay. So it's just like just to shed light upon the possibilities of having a full-time job and endeavoring on other things. So can you tell me about your experience in doing both, juggling both, and what challenges maybe come from it?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult sometimes. I'm lucky that I have a job that I enjoy. So I don't necessarily feel like I'm at a soul sucking, job, and then I need this other thing, to refill me or whatever. But I think it's important to set boundaries for yourself. Like, I need the full-time job, obviously, to fund everything else. But there's also like relationships you want to maintain. You want to, get proper sleep. Maybe other hobbies, like you don't want to just forget everything else and just like work and then do this other thing that is like your creative outlet. So finding a balance, I think, is difficult sometimes, especially when you're starting out, because you don't know like if you're even going to enjoy what you're doing. And sometimes just like, exploring can take up a lot of time. But yeah, I think the key is understanding that this creative endeavor that you're taking on outside of your work hours, like your 9-to-5, that's something that recharges you and fills you up and something that brings you life. You're not like doing your job and then getting even more drained after work. It's like this thing that fills you up and gives you life outside of this other thing. And finding that balance is key, right? So setting a boundary for yourself, like what you're doing in your creative endeavor, you got to get your sleep, you got to take care of yourself to show up for everything else. You have relationships to maintain, and yeah, just a healthy balance is important. And that it takes some massaging to figure that out. I'm
sure you didn't have it figured out right off the get-go, that the balance thing.
No,
I definitely didn't.
Still figuring it out.
Yeah, as I'm sure we all are figuring it out. But it's funny to say, because this podcast is my extracurricular activity that I do beyond normal, like working and doing video production. And it's true, it does energize me, and the conversations are fun, and I'm just like, oh, cool, learn something.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. It has to be something that you enjoy doing. And I don't know, if maybe you're doing something you feel like, I should be enjoying this, but I'm not. Maybe that's a sign that, like, I don't know, you should be checking in with yourself. Like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Right? Do I feel genuine about why I'm taking on this creative endeavor? So like really checking in with yourself and being honest with yourself. Is this thing giving me life, or am I just draining myself even more after work? Easier said than done sometimes, but that's important.
Sometimes though, it energizes you so much that you just like throw everything else out the window.
Yeah. You don't know how to turn it off.
You know, I feel that too sometimes. And then I find myself going for periods of time where I'm just like full pin, like wake up, work till I go to sleep. But I don't consider it always work. Like I am working, but I am enjoying every interaction along the way. And then I hit a point where I'm like, I need to take a pause for a moment.
Yeah. It's the 3 a.m., 4 a.m. days where you're like, oh God, I gotta work in 3 hours.
Yeah. It is a fun journey to explore and figure out. I'm curious about when like actually working with your hands, like how, like tell me a sentiment or I guess a story, or just like when it comes to working with your hands and interacting with materials, and even if it's with no objective, like how do you feel about that whole tactile experience? Yeah.
So with furniture and home goods, you know that it's going to be experienced by somebody. It's not like maybe like a painting or something that you put on display somewhere. It's something that's going to be actively experienced by people. So having that sort of hands-on feel the entire way is important. Like you have to be a fan of it. You have to enjoy how it feels, and it has to feel the way you expected it in your mind to feel, or maybe you surprise yourself even. But the hands-on part of designing furniture and stuff like that is vital. That's the core of it almost. Like it has to be comfortable or whatever. It has to be the vision that you expected for the thing. It has to feel right for you physically and maybe emotionally.
Interesting. So if you prototype something, are you then taking some time to live with it?
Yeah.
And experience it in some way?
Yep. That's a huge part of it. Like the chair was just in my home, the prototype for the longest time, just to see like how does even light cast across it different times of the day.
Cool.
Sitting in it, doing different things in it, drinking coffee or reading a book or taking an extended period of time in it. Just standing in and out of it, putting it together, just living with it and experiencing it that way, like very hands-on, is a huge part of the process. That's
super cool. And the hands-on, I can definitely relate to that with, like, in my world of video production, the hands-on experience is, it's like you build the camera, you take it down, you build the camera, you take it down. I didn't realize how much value there was in repeatedly building a camera and taking it down. And like, if you don't know what building a camera is, like, you can basically take a camera, put a metal cage on it that gives you an infinite combination, infinite possibility of combinations of things you can mount to it, of different support systems, of screen. So building it and taking it down gives you the opportunity to like really use it in different ways and then get to know it. And then you could then deploy it in different ways. And I feel like it's similar to the furniture. I like what you said about how you just sat and looked at how light hit it. Like, that's really cool that you take that amount of, I guess, time and patience with something, and sitting in it now, I can get a better understanding of why this is as comfortable as it is, because you took time with it. Yeah.
Well, even like the assembly of the rocker, for instance, and it's the same for you, like taking down and putting together a camera often, like, or as many times as you would, like that repetition, you kind of make it more efficient too. Mm-hmm. And that's something that happened with this, like just having to take it apart and put it together so many times. You figured out the best way to do that, and that's not something that I ever even thought of at the beginning. But like how we place it in your legs first, and
like that process when you told me.
Yeah, like that's, to me, I figured that out just from doing it hundreds of times. Like that was just the easiest way to put it together, the most intuitive. That wasn't like super awkward, because they're heavy pieces, right? So like as ergonomic as possible, but that's just repetition and not something that was an initial thought, but just from the act of doing it and using my entire body with this thing, that answer kind of came about without even knowing it was a question.
That's really freaking cool. And yeah, the way we assembled them was very, like you had the steps laid out. I've never built one of these chairs before. I only knew they existed like 2 weeks ago. And I want 2 of them. I want to kind of explore the actual materials that you're using. So this is wood. You mentioned copper. I've seen concrete. I've seen metal. And these aren't, the way you're using them is not I guess, conventional for furniture. So tell me why and how you make them more approachable.
Well, I'm drawn to them because they're accessible.
Okay.
I don't need to like source special material or, processes, fabricators. Like I can do everything myself. And that's the most important thing. And like everything that I've worked with so far, I can get from a Home Depot or Lowe's or anything like that. So
cool.
That's a huge reason for it. And again, just like using what's available to me and my skills at this current moment. Like that's the catalyst to the designs that end up coming about. Mm-hmm. I'm also just drawn to like how common they are. Like that's something that I love. Like you see plywood all the time, you see concrete all the time. So to kind of picture it in this different way in furniture and maybe high-end furniture, it's an interesting sort of like mixture of these two worlds, like this common everyday sort of material being this special thing. I think is cool, merging those two things.
And I think it's really cool, but I feel like the commonality of the material makes it accessible globally almost, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And now that works really well, especially for the rocker. Like there's plywood everywhere. So, people in Australia, India, China, all the places that have sent me pictures of them making basically the exact same chair because these materials are so accessible. And that's incredible.
Is that your dream? Do you want this to be global and like the design? Like, have you seen it actually go global? Like, have people taken your designs and made the chair in other places?
Yeah. I've seen it in just about every continent except the Arctic and Antarctica.
Really?
Everywhere.
They took your design and remade it.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
I've been sent pictures from everywhere. Like I said, China, Australia. Like I make templates too, so it's just an easier way to make the chair. I would ship you this massive piece of paper that's the size of the chair, and you just
roll it up and ship it.
Yeah,
or
and
fold it, I guess.
Yep, and then it's a poster you cut out and you trace it.
That's so cool.
Easier way to make the chair, and I've shipped those everywhere. The furthest is probably Australia. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think anyone was going to give a shit at the beginning. Like it was just this thing I made. And it was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to put this online. And then again, it just snowballed from there. So I had no thoughts of it being embraced by anyone, let alone someone from Australia, China, South Korea.
That's so cool.
Africa. Like it's crazy.
And did you ever anticipate that you could potentially make a full-time living out of furniture design?
Yeah, totally. I think like any business, it's scary to start out and actually break in. I would love to, right? Like that'd be the dream, obviously, is to just do this full time, but I want to make sure I'm doing it the right way. So taking the steps, just existing, exploring, doing things the way I want to, I think the money will follow kind of thing. That's where my mind's at right now.
That's a beautiful philosophy. Because then you're doing it. It's a sustainable way of doing it, because I mean, I've found myself sometimes doing things for the wrong reasons. And I often, if that's the case, I burn out or I just lose momentum. I lose energy. But when I'm doing what I want to do and what I'm doing feels right inside, it seems like there's infinite energy towards that.
Yeah. It takes the life out of it almost sometimes when you're trying to like make money from it. It takes on this other existence rather than doing it out of love. I think that shows through your intentions for whatever it is you're doing. That comes through in the final product. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything for the right reasons. And like I said, I mean, you need money. It's like it's a necessary evil, but it'll follow. If you're doing what you love, it'll work out.
Sweet. And that's
what I tell myself.
That's this podcast though.
Yeah.
This podcast generates $0.
Hell
but
yeah.
I love it. It's so fun to just, I feel like it's been a really beautiful exploration of the topic of creativity. It's the reason we're sitting here today.
Yeah.
It is bringing Ottawa into a spotlight that is, wasn't necessarily like Ottawa's a great place. As you know, you grew up here, but it's like whenever I travel and I tell people where I'm from, they don't even know it exists. And I'm like, This is the capital of the second largest country in the world. How do you not know?
You always have to say, you know Toronto? You know Montreal? We're in the middle.
Every time. So a goal with this is to shed light upon and give people like you a platform to tell the world what you do, show the world what you do, and then we can all explore together and just have a fun time, because what really matters in this going really deep. No, it's I circle back to that, and I actually released an episode not long ago about that whole, I spoke about purpose, and it's a topic I grapple with, endeavoring into, being a business owner and running things. I don't really have a boss. I don't really have anyone giving me direction. So the topic of purpose, I struggle with it. So I find if I can kind of anchor myself in the human experience, and it makes everything kind of worthwhile, then I'm like, even if we lose money, if we eat shit, if we do something wrong, it's fine, as long as we're doing it with all of our hearts and we're actually enjoying it and we're growing as humans from it.
Yeah, and you love it, right? And you're really good at this, by the way.
Thank you.
If I can compliment you right now.
I appreciate
the panel
that.
was incredible. I think you really guided us. It was all of our first times, I think, doing a panel. So
thanks,
it was nice having somebody with some experience in the driver's seat.
Thank you.
But I think having something to showcase Ottawa artists and designers is super special. And I think what you do with the show and speaking with all of us is super important and very special.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I was so nervous for that panel.
Me too.
I'll be honest.
We were all shitting backstage, really.
Just to give an audience watching, like, maybe we looked like we were keeping it cool up there. I was so nervous, like leading up to it.
Ramsey was crying. I had to console him.
I've been curled up in a ball in the back of the green room that's not green.
There's a lot of tears.
What is the green room's not green? Screw that. Andrew, you're going to battle with one item from your studio. What are you taking?
Oh shit.
Or like
I'm bringing probably the brutal table. This metal table,
Ooh.
rectangular, sharp edges. If I can get that over my head and gouge you with it, that's gonna work.
How heavy is that thing?
It's hollow, so it's not super heavy. It could be a shield, or if you're,
it's a good one.
If I'm feeling strong enough, I can whip that thing and get you with a corner.
That's a brutal table.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen a photo of it. Can you enlighten people who may not be watching or have access to look you up right now?
It's a rectangular sort of low style coffee table.
Okay.
2 rectangular legs, and the center focus of the table is a reservoir, so you can pour water into it. It's a rectangle sort of basin built into the table with a grate that sits flush on top of it. And
cool.
The main thing,
and it's like sealed off from the
bottom.
Put liquid in it, it won't fall.
You put water in it, and my sort of goal with it was so you could put flowers or incense or candles right in the center. I love putting flowers in it to have that sort of juxtaposition of the organic, the nature of a flower against the steel, and the sort of rigid right angles, I think is really, really nice.
Did you put soil in it? Put some flowers in it?
You could put soil in it. Ideally it's just the flower with some water, like you would a vase kind of thing. But you could totally, like, even a bonsai tree I thought of could be really nice in there. But yeah, if I'm going to battle, I'm bringing that thing.
Was there fire in it too at one point? Did I see?
Not yet. Maybe.
Put like
maybe I could put
some charcoal in there.
Put a grill on top.
Oh, that's like Japanese barbecue
kebabs.
in the living room.
You could totally do that. We'll make that happen for right here.
For future, we have a brutal table. This podcast fully sponsored by Andrew Doxtater.
Just straight up charcoal grill. I can do that for you.
Those are pretty. Like, have you ever been to a restaurant where you cook the meat on the table?
Oh yeah. We love those.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see the brutal table. That's no one's ever said. I like asking this question just because it cracks me up. But no one's ever said they're bringing a table to battle. Usually it's something pointy and like something they can hit with. But
that's the pointiest thing I think I've made. So it's got to be that.
So the brutal table, the oval rocker, and the rock lamp, are those do you have more than that? You have another chair as well?
Yeah, that's sort of a reimagining of another design. That's the Pierre Généré chair that I made out of pallets.
That's like the wicker or whatever, the chair with the soft base.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. But yeah, those 3 designs are kind of what I've officially released so far. I'm always working on stuff, but officially that I've felt I wanted to release and post online, share with people, it's those so far.
Cool.
Hopefully a lot more. I'd love to just get things out and share as much as possible. But you need time, money,
Absolutely.
all that. So it's
really just time. Things take a long time.
Yes.
I struggle a lot with time, perception of time.
Totally.
Even though it doesn't exist, it's not tangible.
Yeah.
It's just a construct. I mean, but it's just, I'm impatient.
Well, I find too, like if I design something, I take a video of it or I whatever, like it's done, I want to get it out as soon as possible.
I feel that.
But sometimes it needs a little work afterwards, editing, whatever, finishing. I'm just like, oh, this is done. Like I want to get it,
It'll get done.
Yeah.
It'll get done eventually and people will enjoy it. Maybe more because you took more time on it.
Yeah. That's always the case. Yeah.
Who knows? Andrew, what are some of the challenges that you've faced with, creating furniture and actually having a consistent output and, just the process itself?
Well, time management is a huge thing.
Okay.
So like having the right amount of time to show up and do your best at something, being able to like take care of yourself while doing all that, being able to hold down a job in order to fund this other thing, all that is like you're working in a small window of time in a day. Like it always feels like there's not enough time in a day to get everything done. So that's been the biggest challenge for me, and just figuring out how I can, be healthy, like make healthy decisions, get the right amount of sleep, exercise, do all that while trying to show up and be the best I can to design. That's been the biggest challenge. So.
How have you gotten better at managing your time? What have you done? What maybe changes have you made to maximize your use of your time?
I started using a calendar.
Nice.
That was huge for me. Actually, like setting aside time, which sounds so like obvious, right? But actually like blocking off time to say like, okay, between these hours, I'm going to be doing whatever design. It could be sketching or actually physically building prototypes, whatever, but there's a design block.
Okay.
And it has an end time too.
Sweet.
So it's like you start here, you end here.
But nothing else can interrupt it either, right? Because it's,
I mean,
it can, but like you're pre-planning this block
exactly
to do just that, not to like worry about other shit.
Yeah. And it changes all the time. Like ideally, you stick to your schedule and that works perfectly. It doesn't always work like that. But I mean, if you think about it, you set aside one day of the week, specifically the time that you're going to work, you can plan ahead. So, if something comes up, you're like, no, I'm actually doing my thing during this hour. That's been super helpful. So just like, I guess being organized, calendar really helps. But yeah, the time management thing is huge for sure.
The calendar's huge. Like,
yeah,
I started using a digital calendar, like I'm gonna say partway into my first year of business, and it just like changed my life. I'm like, why have I gone this long without doing this? Yeah. But it's crazy because like when I put something in my calendar, it is happening.
Yeah.
So, but I also got to be careful because I don't want to schedule in things that I don't want to do. So
you can overload it too.
But it's funny because I always struggle. I'm like, when can I take a holiday? Like, I don't know. I got to work. I find if I schedule something far enough in advance, without even realizing it, I'm planning around that block, and I'm, organizing future commitments around that blocked off, let's say 2 weeks or whatever. So the calendar is huge.
Yeah. I think that's been the biggest thing. But you can easily like abuse the calendar. You can overload it. You can have things right back to back.
Scheduling sleep.
I gotta travel to these things too, right? Yeah, you gotta schedule and sleep. Honestly, also scheduling doing nothing. Like you're just blocking a section of your calendar. Yeah, just doing nothing is important. It's so easy when like maybe if you're not intentionally sitting down saying like I'm gonna watch a movie or I'm gonna sit down, maybe even like go on my phone, you could think like, oh, I should be doing something right now, and you can't enjoy that rest. So like blocking that that time off and intentionally like resting is huge too. But that like goes against everything you know as a business owner or what a creative. It's like, I want to go, but you need to rest too. Like that's, I feel like I forget that sometimes, and you just feel off, and you're like, I just feel like shit, and you don't realize, well, you need to like just take a break sometimes from everything. That's huge.
Rest can be productive. Rest is productive.
Yeah.
If I'm going to give a half-assed effort today while I'm tired, or if I say, screw it, I'm going to rest and then hit it twice as hard tomorrow, that seems to be working a lot better. Because in past years, I would just work late. I would work all day and then work all night and then go to sleep and then wake up tired. But lately I've been like, you know what? It's 9 p.m. Instead of putting in 2 hours now, I'm going to sleep at like 9:30 p.m., which is early for me. And I'm going to wake up early and then start. And then I'm like, wow, this actually kind of works.
Yeah.
I start to realize why, you see all these, professionals getting up at 5 a.m. I'm like,
it works.
It works.
I don't know.
I don't do that yet. I'm still building up to the 5 a.m.s.
Like Mark Wahlberg getting up at 3 a.m. working out.
This guy doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Andrew, if there's a message you could leave to your future self, what would you say? 95-year-old Andrew's watching this.
Oh my God.
Hey, man.
Hey. Glad you made it.
It's a good one.
A message to my 95-year-old self.
Or just future self. Could be you tomorrow. I mean, the episode won't be out tomorrow, but
don't stop. I think keep doing regardless of the outcome. Just keep going. Learn from your mistakes. Mm-hmm. There's value in just doing things. So keep going. Don't stop and just do things.
Just do things.
Yes.
You just got to do things.
Just do it.
When I was chatting with Pooja, we were talking similar about she's like, when you don't feel like creating is when you should be creating, but it's a framework that I learned from, what's his name? Mark Manson. He wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay. Yeah.
And his philosophy and the framework is the myth of like being motivated. It's like, you don't start with motivation, you start with action, and then that leads to motivation, which then leads to more action. And it's like you got to start by just building a bit of momentum and just do something, and then oh, that's cool, and then you do more, and then
yeah, I totally agree with that. Even just like something simple like chores, like for me, it's so easy to just put things off. But once I start doing one thing, I'm like, okay, I'm already up. The shit's out. The bottles, the cleaning balls are out. I'll just and then I'll go. But that's the same thing that translates to creativity 100%. Just like doing and applying yourself. That is like you're starting your engine and you're going for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
95-year-old Andrew. I can't wait to see what furniture you've made in these years, because that's a long way away. That's like many, many years. You just started and these things are sick. If you're not watching this on video, when you have a moment, either look up Andrew so you can see the chair, or check out the episode in a video format, which it is available on YouTube in 4K. It's available on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, anywhere that you are subscribed to receive music and audio. You can watch and listen there. Andrew, thank you. That was fun.
Thank you.
It's a fun exploration.
First podcast.
This is your first podcast?
Yeah.
I freaking love that. I love you. Many people, this is their first podcast. Some people, their first time ever on camera on this podcast. And it's super fun because I get to bring you into this world where we get to have conversations locked in.
Totally.
Whenever Ryan works with me closely, whenever him and I do like sound checks and we sit and we talk, we're like, we should just talk like this more often. It's pretty fun.
It's pretty crazy. I can hear you like you're right here too. It's wild. I love this.
It's fun.
We should do it again.
We should. We'll be back. I have many ideas and dreams for this podcast, obviously constrained by time and energy, but there's things that they will happen at some point. I don't know when, but I appreciate you and I appreciate the viewers, the listeners for coming along this journey. I hope this episode, has brought you value. You've gotten to know Andrew a little bit more. We've explored the topic of working with your hands a little bit more. I invite you to work with your hands. Do anything, literally anything that involves your hands can actually give you so much information and so much of a outlet for how you're maybe feeling or thinking. And I just encourage you to do it. Your hands are a blessing, and it's okay to get them a little beat up sometimes, but they're there for you. They are just like there's so much information.
Yeah, you never know what it can lead to.
Yeah, lead to this sick chair, which I'm gonna keep talking about because I want it. Derek. Anyways, thank you very much for joining us on another episode of the Creators Podcast. Again, this podcast is powered by Pano Media, and it is also supported by Midnight Hour Studios, which is where we are today. All of their information will be down below. Make sure you check out the Auto Design Club. There's actually a few more events for the year of 2024, if that's when you're watching this. There will be more events in the future, so keep an eye there. Andrew's information will all be down below, his website, his Instagram, and check out some of the content he's made with these chairs. There's some really cool photos and behind the scenes videos, and once they're available widely, I'm sure you'll post about it, right?
Totally.
Cool, man. So
thank you.
What can people expect from you in coming months? Anything they can expect from furniture or?
I have some designs. Hopefully I'm going to get out soon.
Mm-hmm.
New stuff, weird stuff.
I like it.
I don't know. I just kind of see how it goes. Cool. Maybe nothing. I'll keep the mystery alive.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, follow Andrew to check it out. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, man. That was dope.